David and Goliath is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible. It's a story of faith, courage, and the power of the underdog. The story begins with the Israelites and Philistines preparing for battle. The Philistines had a secret weapon, a giant named Goliath, who was over 9 feet tall and wore armor weighing over 125 pounds. Goliath challenged the Israelites to send out a champion to fight him in single combat. None of the Israelite soldiers were willing to face Goliath until a young shepherd named David arrived at the Israelite camp to bring food to his brothers. When David heard Goliath's challenge, he volunteered to fight him, even though he was just a boy and had no experience in battle. King Saul agreed to let David fight Goliath, and he gave him his own armor and sword. But David decided to fight Goliath on his own terms, with a sling and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. When Goliath saw David, he laughed and taunted him. But David remained calm and confident, trusting in God to deliver him. He swung his sling and hit Goliath in the forehead with a stone, causing him to fall to the ground. David ran over and used Goliath's own sword to kill him. The Philistines were terrified and fled, and the Israelites won the battle. David became a hero, and his victory over Goliath is seen as a symbol of the triumph of good over evil, and the power of faith over fear. The story of David and Goliath teaches us that even when we face seemingly impossible challenges, we can trust in God and find the courage to overcome them. This is the end of this story. Follow for more. The story of the Good Samaritan is a parable that Jesus told to illustrate the importance of showing compassion and kindness to others, even if they are strangers or from a different group than us. The story begins with a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He is attacked by robbers who beat him, take his belongings, and leave him for dead on the side of the road. Several people pass by the wounded man, including a priest and a Levite, but they both ignore him and continue on their way. Then, a Samaritan comes along. The Samaritans were considered outcasts and enemies by the Jews, but this man is moved with compassion and stops to help the injured man. The Samaritan tends to the man's wounds, puts him on his own animal, and takes him to an inn where he pays for his lodging and care. The next day, the Samaritan leaves money with the innkeeper to cover any additional expenses and promises to return and pay more if necessary. Jesus then asks his listeners which of these 3 men was a neighbor to the man who was beaten and left for dead. They all answer that it was the Samaritan, who showed compassion and mercy to a stranger in need. The story of the Good Samaritan teaches us that we should show love and compassion to everyone, regardless of their background or status. It challenges us to go beyond our comfort zones and prejudices to help those in need, even if it means sacrificing our time, money, or convenience. It also reminds us that we are all called to be good neighbors to one another and to love our neighbors as ourselves. This is the end of this episode. Follow for more. The story of Samson and Delilah is a tragic tale of love and betrayal. Samson was a Nazirite, chosen by God to be a judge and leader of Israel. He was known for his incredible strength, which came from his long hair and his dedication to God's laws. One day, Samson met Delilah, a woman from the Philistine city of Sorek. The Philistines were Israel's enemies, and Delilah was paid by their rulers to discover the secret of Samson's strength. Delilah tried to coax the secret out of Samson by asking him repeatedly, but he refused to tell her. Finally, she threatened to leave him if he didn't reveal the secret, and Samson gave in. He told her that his strength came from his hair, which had never been cut. While Samson was sleeping, Delilah cut off his hair, and the Philistines came and captured him. They gouged out his eyes and put him in prison, where he was forced to grind grain. One day, the Philistines brought Samson to their temple to entertain them. Samson asked God for strength one last time, and God granted his request. Samson pushed against the temple pillars, causing the entire building to collapse and killing everyone inside, including himself. The story of Samson and Delilah shows the danger of succumbing to temptation and the consequences of betraying God. Samson's love for Delilah caused him to compromise his commitment to God and ultimately led to his downfall. It also highlights the power of repentance and forgiveness, as Samson's final act of faith shows that he was still devoted to God, despite his earlier mistakes. This is the end of this episode. Follow for more.
Do you know, no matter what challenge you're facing, and no matter how tough your life is, there are people who would desperately want to be in your place. Come, thank Allah. Why is it we all complain? Yes, we do have challenges. Have faith. Have faith. Life is all about being tested.
This is one salah, one salah. You miss one salah for no reason. You're worse than a murderer. You're worse than a rapist. You're worse than a terrorist. You're worse than a pedophile in the eyes of Allah.
Now if we look at Adam alayhi salam, he came down onto the earth. Where did he land? He came down in what is known as the Indo-Pak subcontinent, precisely Sri Lanka. There is a mount there known as Adam's Peak. It is said that there is a possibility that that is the place. What about Hawa? Where did she come down? In Jeddah. Jeddah is in the Arabian Peninsula, in what we know today as Saudi Arabia. And what is the meaning of Jeddah? It means the grandmother. It is named after her.
Adam alayhi salam and Hawa searched for each other. They found each other on the mountain of Arafat. That's the name of the mountain of acquaintance. Maybe because Adam alayhi salam and Hawa found each other on that mountain.